How's it going, guys? My name is Jimmy Champagne, and thanks so much for clicking on my breakdown of the trailer for It Chapter 2. I'm gonna go through the entire thing and let you know what I think of it, and also what scenes from the movie we might actually be seeing in the trailer. And on top of that, I'm gonna point out a few Easter eggs I noticed as well. As it turns out, I was wrong in the video I posted last night, and in the trailer we get to see that full sequence that everyone got to check out at CinemaCon just over a month ago. It's a moment straight from the book where Beverly goes back to her dad's apartment and talks to the woman who lives there, Mrs. Kirsch. Now, she might have actually killed her dad in It Chapter 1, but it's not very clear. But regardless, her dad is dead at this point in the story. And on top of that, once she gets there and starts talking to Mrs. Kirsch, she immediately realizes that something is wrong. I really like that every time Mrs. Kirsch leaves the room, or Pennywise, he kind of like peeks in or does weird stuff like this. It gives him a sense of like playful malice, and it shows that he's confident even though these kids beat him up 27 years ago. I really like that, because if he didn't have that sense of confidence, we really wouldn't have a good antagonist for this movie. The end of the scene shows Mrs. Kirsch running at Beverly from behind, and it's pretty creepy, but I'd really like to see the other side of her, specifically her face, because from the scream we hear coming out of Pennywise, it's gonna look pretty scary. And also, just pointing this out really quick, if you watch the trailer on a device like a laptop or a phone, make sure you go ahead and watch it on something with speakers that have stereo sound, because Mrs. Kirsch's footsteps are aligned to either side, and that really screwed with my head. It was awesome. After that, we get to see a bunch of shots of the adult and kids versions of the Losers Club, but my favorite one of all is when they're standing in front of the shop window and they can see the reflection of themselves as kids. It's kind of like the adults all silently saying to each other that they knew they'd be back. I think that's really cool. After that, we get to see Bill Hader say that the Losers Club has officially started, and it's important to note that that takes place at a Chinese restaurant. That's pulled straight from the book and I guess the 80s miniseries, where they all sit down for dinner. When they open up their fortune cookies, there's things like cockroaches and dead bird fetuses and eyeballs in them. It's a pretty creepy scene in both the book and that 80s miniseries, but I'd like to see it with some 2019 shine on it. Another scene that's being taken straight from the book looks like Pennywise floating up to the Paul Bunyan statue to terrorize Richie. Now, in the book, he kind of just mocks him from on top of the statue and then turns into the statue to chase Richie, and I don't know if they're actually going to make Pennywise control the statue, and I kind of hope they don't, because there's really no way to do that practically, and that just screams CGI to me. So maybe they should just have him mock Richie from on top of that thing, or do something different. After that, there's a shot of a carnival, which means it could be the Derry County Fair, which in turn confirms that we're gonna see the Adrian Mellon scene in this movie. Now, if you don't know what that means, a lot of people have been asking for one scene to be featured in this movie, and it's a death of a character named Adrian Mellon. Now, if you don't know what that scene is and you don't want it spoiled, skip ahead now, but basically there's a character named Adrian Mellon who's gay, and a bunch of homophobic bullies throw him off the bridge. He survives the fall, but Pennywise crawls out and kills him, and that's kind of what spurs the Adult Losers Club to come back to Derry. After that, there's a supercut full of great shots. We've got this one of the Adult Losers Club going back into Pennywise's lair, and it's really cool to see how it's changed over the past 3 decades. This shot is also super reminiscent of the space jockey scene in Alien, so I think that's really cool. And of course, they had to include the kiss between Bill and Beverly, and you know what? It just stings as much now as it did back then, I'll say it. And if you pause at just the right moment, you get a shot of Jessica Chastain in what might be the bloodiest scene ever put to film. Now, when she said that, I was thinking maybe she should go look at Evil Dead 2013, a movie that literally made it rain blood, but seeing this whole room filled up with blood and gore, you know, it kind of makes me think that she might be right, and I'm really excited to see that moment. I think this shot of the losers all holding hands in the sewer might be the beginning of the ritual of Chud, and I kind of hope it's not, because I don't want them to spoil something from the end of the movie in the trailer. Finally, the last thing we get to see in the trailer is Pennywise coming out of the shadows to lure in a little girl with a match so he can eat her. Now, I know I said the Adrian Mellon scene might be the intro to the movie, but this could also be Pennywise's reintroduction, showing that, yeah, he's back after 27 years and he's still got it. I think this is a pretty creepy scene nonetheless, and you know, seeing a kid die on screen is pretty scary, but honestly, I hope they don't bait and switch us again by not having any stakes after this kid dies. All in all, I think this was a really good and really safe trailer. It's basically in line with what we keep seeing from New Line trailer-wise with the Conjuring movies, where they show us a really scary scene at either the beginning or the ending of the trailer, and then a supercut that just basically establishes the characters and maybe a couple moments we're gonna see throughout the film. That's a good way to do it because it doesn't really spoil anything. Even though this is an adaptation of the book, there are some things they're gonna change, obviously, and they didn't tell us any of that in the trailer. It also gave the movie an epic sense of scale and confidence that I think it really needed, because that's exactly what it should feel like. It's the end of an extremely long book, so long that it had to be split into 2 parts, so I'm glad that they're not shying away from anything. I'm also happy that we're gonna see the Adrian Mellon scene, but I am kind of scared that that Paul Bunyan moment is gonna be full of CGI, but I was only able to pick out one moment in the entire trailer that could have CGI, so that's a pretty good track record already set if you ask me. So that's what I thought of the It Chapter 2 trailer. Let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below, and if I missed any Easter eggs or anything like that. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already, and I think that about covers it. So as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.